NHL trade rumors are heating up. At this point in the offseason, free agent frenzy has already come and gone, and teams may or may not be disappointed having missed out on signing key free agents and are still looking to improve their team and are now turning over to trading as a mechanism to do so. And one player who's getting some attention around the league is from the Winnipeg Jets, Nino Niederreiter. And we even had an article come out the other day from an NHL analyst mentioning, hey, this team might be interested in Nino Niederreiter, and this is what a package for him could look like. So we're going to break that down. We're going to discuss what that package is and if it even makes sense for the Winnipeg Jets to do. But before we do hop into the video, I couldn't help but notice in the past 28 days, it looks like 87.3% of the people watching our videos here on the Jets Digest channel are not subscribed to the channel. I'd highly suggest you throw a subscription. We're going to be talking Jets throughout the offseason, trades, signings, anything that comes down the pipe, we'll be here to break it down. But hopping into the video, let's hop over to the article that we're discussing here today. This is by Antonio Losada, July 8th, 2025 on Athlon Sports. The article is titled, NHL Analyst Floats Maple Leafs Jets Trade Idea to Upgrade Toronto's Top 6. Now, of course, we're not going to be talking about this from a Toronto point of view. We're going to be talking about it from a Jets point of view and seeing if this even makes sense for the Jets to even entertain as an option. So let's hop over to the quote that we have from the article. After setting it up, discussing that the Leafs could be interested in Nino Niederreiter, Jeremy Tingley of the Leafs Nation had this to say: with Nick Ehlers off to Carolina, the Jets would need a return of some help on the wing if Niederreiter was moved. So perhaps Nick Robertson or Bobby McMann would be of interest. Now, before we do talk about those two players, let's talk a little bit about Nino Niederreiter. This past year, he played 82 games. He only had 37 points, 17 goals, 20 assists. But again, this is a player who doesn't necessarily show always his value on the score sheet. And I would say this past year was a very much a down year for him. In the past, he's been a much higher scoring player. He is 32 now. Getting close to 33. So yes, maybe it could be an aging curve, but I also would like to say that, this guy was playing on the Jets' third line, which is basically the Jets' second line, which, some nights could even be the Jets' first line, considering they're always tasked with playing against the opposing team's best players and shutting them down. We can even hop over here and look at, Nino Niederreiter's microstats. This is provided by ronohockey.com. You can go on there and take a look at their, the charts that they have. This is very similar to like the Jay Fresh type of things if you've seen the previous video. But in general, to break it down, when you see a number here, this is where they rank on a scale of 1 to 100 in regards to the rest of the league. So this was just Nino's last year, and prior to this, he had better numbers than this here. Again, he had a down year, but still in a down year, he provided, above average defensive stats for the Winnipeg Jets, as well as, maybe not the best at producing offense, but that's not that guy's job, especially not on that line. So Nino Niederreiter is a very valuable player to the Winnipeg Jets, allowing, a bit more skill to be placed onto a line with Lowry. He's a guy who's able to play the bang and crash style that Lowry likes to play, but at the same time still has some hands, still is able to shoot. If you take a look here, the biggest thing that I want to highlight, if you see the roll difficulty stat, he's at 90%. So he is he has one of the hardest jobs in the NHL, because every single night the Winnipeg Jets are relying on him to go out there, be able to shut down the opposing team's top players, as well as, maybe even win that matchup if possible, which is crazy to think about, a third line going out there against opposing teams' top lines and still winning that matchup. So I personally am a big fan of Nino Niederreiter. Yes, he is already, getting close to, 33 years old almost, but I still think that he's a very valuable player for the Jets, especially considering he is on a contract for $4 million for the next 2 seasons, which, should probably take him to the end, near the end of his career, as his age, curve keeps going down, unfortunately. But at the same time, before I get into talking about Nino more, let's talk about the players that were supposedly floated in this deal. Let's talk about Nick Robertson, and let's also talk about Bobby McMann. So Nick Robertson, again, was formerly a pretty highly touted prospect for the Leafs, and it's crazy because I feel like we've been hearing about this guy forever, but he's still only 23 years old. I guess he is turning 24, considering he's getting close to his birthday. But regardless, in the last year, he played kind of a fourth line role for, low in the lineup with the Leafs, has never really been able to, grab a scoring, middle six, top six role for the Leafs. Hasn't been able to really show his potential in that case. You can see here he had 22 points in 69 games, 15 goals, 7 assists, playing very low time on ice. Is not that impactful of a player. We can head over to his microstat profile, again provided by Rono Hockey. That's for Bobby McMann. We'll talk about him after, my bad. But you can see here he's a pretty average player in regards to, his ability to suppress offense as well as create. But when I look at this here, I can see that has next to no offensive impact. On this chart here that you can see, he's a good finisher, but the Jets have never really lacked finishing talent. I think they usually have lacked, especially with the loss of Ehlers, the stuff that getting from, the defensive end to the offensive end and, creating offensive opportunities. So I don't really see this guy as a fit. And at this point, I've kind of soured on him. I've just heard about him too much. And even, looking at this, despite the fact he had good microstat, outcomes, having 41 defense, 41 offense, 60 defense, you can see that his role difficulty was an 11. So he was not playing against difficult competition. And this is just a guy who I don't know. At this point in his career, I mean, he is only 23, so he could still put it together, but I'm not really interested in him as like a key piece in a package. And when we hop over to Bobby McMann as an option too, let's go back over to his stat line. He's a guy who plays closer to second line minutes, but unfortunately he plays as a winger. He has 74 games played the last year, 20 goals, 14 assists, 34 points. And when you look at his microstat profile, like let's move over there real quick. This is a guy who, while he is, definitely better than Nick Robertson, the big issue that I have is that this is not significantly better than Nino Niederreiter for me. And we already know and trust Nino in the role that he's in. So I wouldn't really want to, go out and take a risk like taking a guy like this. He also only has 1 year left on his deal. So despite the fact that he may be a couple years younger than Nino, I just don't see the need to do this trade. It doesn't really make sense for me. And especially considering the Winnipeg Jets are currently in this cup window that we talk about, related to Connor Hellebuyck, Mark Scheifele and their deals and their production. This year is a year I think the Jets are going to take the step back. I don't think it should be too controversial to say this. I don't see the Jets as contenders this next year. I think the loss of Ehlers is going to be huge, and you've got a lot of things relying on, a guy like Jonathan Toews being able to come back and be an effective player. You've got older players like Gus Nyquist, who, despite, saying the things that I say, he's still an older player and could potentially not put it back together, despite the fact that he has been good in previous years and had a weird year with the Predators. Tanner Pearson, all these guys, I think the Jets just kind of lack this higher end offensive talent, and Bobby McMann doesn't really provide anything to me that, Nino can't provide himself. And also Nick Robertson just isn't that interesting of a prospect for me anymore. He's 23 years old, and, he's getting to the point where he should be in the prime of his career right now, and he still hasn't really put it together. And on top of all of that, another thing I want to add is, why are you going to pay assets, a guy like Nino Niederreiter, when you can potentially just go out and get other players who are still still unrestricted free agents? Like, the output that a Bobby McMann or a Nick Robertson would provide to this lineup, I would say would be matched or even outweighed by a guy like Jeff Skinner, who you can sign for free. You don't have to go and give an asset for this guy, or Victor Olofsson, Jack Roslovic. The Jets love bringing back old former Jets to play with them. At very least, he had a connection with Kyle Connor, and the point is, there are other options out there via trade than giving up a guy as useful and as important to the Jets as Nino Niederreiter. And on top of all of these things, if the Jets do take the step back that we could see, you can still trade Nino Niederreiter. Like, he could be, if the Jets take have a very bad year, let's just say Hellebuyck gets hurt in the first whatever, knock on wood, of course. if Hellebuyck or somebody gets hurt, a key important piece for the Jets, and, maybe they're not even in a playoff spot or they're in like a low wildcard spot, maybe you can even trade Nino Niederreiter at the deadline. He's still got 2 years, like this year and the next year, so that has a lot of value to it. He's a very, I don't know, I just see this as a very unnecessary trade for the Jets to make. And yes, we're treating it like it is, potentially could happen. This is just a guy, an NHL analyst coming out and mentioning this as an option for the trade. But I think this trade has Toronto goggles on it, where they're listening going, hey, Nino could be a guy that we could get. And yeah, we'll give up, Bobby McMann, who has only this season left on his deal. And we all know that people don't like to sign in Winnipeg. So why would they take, a chance on him re-signing here? So regardless, it's going to be interesting to come as the days come out. We've seen rumors regarding Jared McCann, Dougie Hamilton. Many, many things are happening in the NHL. And I really hope that the Jets are in on players like that rather than signing or trading one of their key pieces to get, basically the same players back. But regardless, appreciate you guys watching. If you have any comments on this, if you think I'm dumb for not, giving credit to Nick Robertson, being still 23, if you think that this is a great trade, if you think this is an awful trade, let us know in the comments. And make sure you guys do like the video. Have yourself a wonderful summer. I'll be here breaking everything down. Make sure you guys tune in. Peace.